back everybody, welcome to the first card in today's card class. I am going to be using, for this image, I'm going to be using a sitting up bunny and some flowers, and the inside is left blank. Okay, so I am going to I'm going to stamp my images. First of all, I'm going to stamp my sitting up bunny and the flowers. Now what I like to do is I like to add my images to one block when I'm colouring, just because it doesn't really matter which way up the items are, and it just saves time with your stamping. Okay, so I'm stamping with Memento. Memento is the best ink to use with stamping blend markers. Okay, so that's my little stamped bunny. So I'm going to do a little bit of colouring now, and I'm going to focus on just keeping it really simple with this one. I'm going to just do some smoky slate colour, and I'm going to start with my lighter shade, so light smoky slate. Now everyone has their own preference with colouring. Some people like to add the light colour first, some people like to add the dark. My preferred style is to add the light shade first, and then to build your colour from there. Okay, so I'm going to add just a little touch of colour to the main areas of our bunny, but I'm leaving a little strip of white. If you notice on my card here, the bunny is lighter down his sides. Okay, so I am just going to add my colour there. And then in his face. Now some of you may wish to use the felt tip end. I'm using the finer sort of end, and I'm not pushing very hard. If you push hard, your blend pen will make a little squeak sound, which, to be honest, will just end up ruining the nibs, and we don't want that. Okay, so I'm just adding a little wash of colour all over. Excuse me, my heater has come on, it's quite cold out here this morning. Right, so there is my bunny. So he's got a nice little wash of grey. Now I'm going to go in with my dark, and again I'm going to use this fine end, and I'm adding the darker colour in the areas where I think it will be darker, so under the crease of his arms and around his tummy. Okay, and then down this sort of area, down the edges. And into his paws. Okay, down the sides and at the top of the head. And just in the bottom of his ears. Now it looks a bit odd at the moment, but when we start blending in a minute, it will all come together quite nicely. And I'm just going over so I've got quite a depth of colour. Okay, the blends are designed that if you keep going over them, you'll just get a deeper colour. Okay, I'm going to go back in with my light, and I'm going to blend just between the light and the dark. So I'm not filling in all the gaps, I'm just sort of moving the colour, and I'm also going to add a little bit of grey just at the bottom of his tummy. Okay, now this is where our colour lifter comes in handy, and I'm actually going to use the felt tip end here, and I'm going to go over my lighter sections and the area, the gap where the colour finishes, and just sort of pull the colour down. Okay, and what this does is this does exactly what it says it will do. It lifts the colour and gives you a really nice blend. Just remember that when you're colouring with blends, they will dry lighter. Okay, you can add colour after, but sometimes it can look a bit odd. So I've just finished that like so. I'm going to leave that to dry, the grey, and I'm going to add in a little bit of tone colour to the ear. So I'm just using a little bit of ivory in the base of the ear, and again I'm going in with my colour lifter like so. Okay, so I'm going to leave my bunny to dry, and I'm going to colour my flowers next. So for the flowers, I'm using Granny Apple Green, the lighter shade, for my leaves. And what I discovered when I coloured these images is that my Granny Apple Green blend has been used quite a lot. But obviously we have a colour refresh coming soon, so I'm going to wait and see what colours stick around before I purchase any new blends. Okay, so I've added my lighter colour first, and then I'm just adding a little dash of the darker into the base of those leaves, just to give it a little bit of depth. Okay, Flirty Flamingo next for our flowers, or a couple of the flowers, and I'm not really being too careful with these. I'm just putting the colour down. With smaller images, I find, you know, you don't really need to worry too much about the blending, especially if it's a sort of if it's a image in the background. Okay, that's quite nice. And then we've got some Daffodil Delight. So again, we're going to go in with the light daffodil. Just get the colour on. And I think sometimes we worry about, oh, is this going to look good enough? Is my colouring going to be okay? And the truth is, your colouring will be perfect, because there's no right or wrong. There's different styles, different techniques, but colouring your images is better than leaving them blank. Okay, and then I'm going to use just a light pumpkin pie for these little pieces here. Okay, so there we have our images, and I am going to just give these a nice little snip snip. Okay, so welcome back. I didn't think you'd want to see me spending some time colouring, so I just paused the video there. So we now have our little bunny and some flowers. Now this bunny looks really cute with the flowers in his sort of headband. It's such a cute little idea. So now we've got our images cut out, we can take all of our pieces out of our card kit. Now in your card kit you should have a card base cut from Granny Apple Green. You should have 2 pieces of basic white card. They measure 10 centimetres by 14.4 centimetres. You should have 3 pieces of different patterned designer paper. These measure 3 centimetres by 13.9 centimetres. Then you should actually have an egg shape. So I used this little white circle, but actually it looks better with the egg shape. And then you have a little strip of balmy blue cardstock. You will also need, or I've stamped my sentiment in balmy blue ink. Here we go. So you'll also need a balmy blue ink pad, or you could stamp that in black and that would also look really, really nice as well. So to assemble our card, we're going to quite simply attach our piece of white, if my glue will work. Always the way when you're filming. Here we go. So this piece goes onto the card front, leaving a nice border of green showing around the outside. You also have another piece to go inside. Like so. Then our 3 pieces of designer series paper, we're going to stick to our card front. This is a really nice design, and probably my go-to design with using your designer paper. It's great because it doesn't use up too much, and it's also a really nice way of showing how all the patterns work together in a pack. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this pack was a set that was available during celebration, and to be honest, I have quite a lot left over, hence why I've included it in your kits today. Okay, so now we've done that, we've got our little egg to put on, and I'm going to attach this with a dimensional, or a couple of dimensionals. I was watching another demonstrator friend of mine the other day, and she uses so many dimensionals, whereas I'm a little bit more frugal. Okay, so let's put our egg about there. Really nice. And then our bunny is going to go on nice and flat. Okay, let's put bunny there. We have our flowers to just layer underneath, like so. And I'm going to put these on with a little dimensional. I'm going to use a mini one. Mini dimensionals are really, really handy. It saves you cutting up the bigger ones. And then to finish, we just have our sentiment. So I'm going to use the enjoy all the little moments on here. And I'm stamping in Balmy Blue ink. Now this piece of card is 1.5 centimeters wide, and then we're just going to trim it down into a smaller banner, and there we go. So that is our first card, all complete. Do let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know how your colouring went, and I will see you all over on video number 2 shortly. Bye for now.